Well, can I share with you something amazing that had happened the following November? So we went in March to the Smart Center, and then that November we went to Disney World, and then I emailed the center immediately with this story.
Oh,
My
I remember.
daughter
I remember.
she loves animals. And she actually admitted that one of the reasons she connects with them is because she sees them as selective mute too. They already have so much they want to say and they can't get it out, mom. And I thought that was sweet. But like you said, she's very sensitive, and I think that's a
Yes, she's
beautiful
very
thing.
aware.
It really can be a beautiful thing. And we went to the bird show at the Animal Kingdom, and for people unfamiliar, they teach birds how to do tricks, and it's a very crowded stadium, and they get audience volunteers to come up and participate and do some of the tricks with the birds. And she raised her hand, stood up, raised her hand. They called her to the front of this huge stadium like place in Disney World, so crowded. And they asked her name. She said it in the microphone. She did the trick. She came running back. I mean, I was shaking. I could not believe it. And she said it was the best day of her life because she said, I know that if we came here before, I never would have raised my hand and I would have regretted it. And now I know I can do these things. And talk about loud and crowded and people. And she gets up and can say her name. I mean, for me, that was that she raised her hand was more than enough. They gave her a little certificate. And for me, I'm like, this is better than a high school diploma or a college diploma. It really was one of the best moments that we knew she really was on a great path, and she was ready to fly.
And it's interesting because I do say for many of our anxious kids, even our sensory kids, that idea of using the cortex and thinking, it's almost like you're going through it. So there may be a lot going around, but you get so focused cognitively on something that you almost put up these little barriers. And so it sounds like she was motivated, she was interested, she was excited, she was very focused, and that allowed her to be able to do what she did, which was just amazing. I
And
mean,
she had the confidence. For me, without the bridge, I mean, there were times that she was a 3 before we came, but it was not steady. It's almost like a house that doesn't have a solid foundation under it, and it's just on slab, and it seems like it's up, but it's not going to last long. And so making sure we went back to where she needed to be, like a sliding scale when she needed to be there. I didn't see it as, oh, but she is talking, so we need to stay here. Why should we go back to that? You had explained it so beautifully. All of the presenters had explained it so beautifully why there are times we need to go back. And then we really made those other stages solid to the point where now that bridge really was sturdy, and the house was not just on some piece of slab. So it without going back on those steps. So even if a kid is talking here and there, I guess somebody could say, oh, I guess she's fine. Maybe he or she doesn't need to go through that whole process. I would argue better to do it than not do it, because we could really identify where those areas were that she needed more time with. I wouldn't even call them weaknesses. I would just say she needed more time there.
no, I mean, an example I'm thinking of is that a child has, let's say Emily had a friend she was verbal with and comfortable with, and she was initiative and elaborative and comfortable. But then she sees the child in class and they're sitting in a larger group and she's not as comfortable being verbal, but the teacher knows to sit her near her peer. So although Emily maybe at the time wasn't able to answer in a large group, the teacher could ask a question a certain way, right? And then prompt her, tell Rebecca or tell me. And so she's still functioning, she's still verbal, but maybe she has the safety of using a peer, or maybe she prepared in advance and had a script read. I mean, there's ways to bridge down that allow you to have those skills that you see, oh, I can do it. My anxiety, I thought it was going to be a 4, but it was really a 2. I realize I can do it. So it's all these things fitting together that make the difference, and that being okay to bridge down, big deal. So you bridge down.
Something you had said at Communicam to the parents was, it's not enabling. Enabling is saying, fine, you don't have to talk. This is not enabling. This is supporting and providing. And that made a big difference to me. And when I talked about it with her teachers, that please don't see any of this as we're trying to enable her. This is going to get her going. This is warming her up to build her confidence. And she might have needed to use it once in the day, once in the morning. And then it just opened up the gates for her to be able to continue talking. You had mentioned something about being with a peer that reminded me before Communicamp. because everybody does the whole exposure thing, right? But if you do it wrong, it's not going to help. Um, I had been signing her up for things like a baking class or fashion sewing classes, and I thought, I'm not going to put her in at the same time as her friends. I'm going to put her in with kids she doesn't know, and then she's
Oh,
forced to
wow.
talk to new people. That
Yeah.
terrible idea.
Yeah,
But
that
I
was
have to forgive myself. I didn't know, and it's my own therapy I had to do. And it wasn't working. And then when we went to Communicamp and you talked about having a friend, a whisper buddy, a verbal intermediary, because then they're talking to that child. And now it's easier to talk to a third child in the group, a fourth child in the group, or that child might be able to talk to the other kid and bring your child into the conversation. I hadn't seen it that way. And also now she's not the kid who's just in the corner not speaking and people think they can't talk to her. So I thought, oh man, I really messed that that up. But you move forward and you try
Yeah,
again.
you learn.
And no, it was amazing because when I did put her in with a friend with some, in those activities again, she did make friends with all the other kids too. And there were people who run those events at the rec center who would pull me aside and say, I can't believe she's the same girl. She is so different in the best way. She still has her kind, sweet, hardworking self, but they said it's amazing to see her go around to help other kids or initiate a conversation. And these are people that had seen her change. And it was amazing to hear that.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, she probably would love working with some of these kids at camp now, letting them.
Yeah, I think she would. I
Yeah,
really think she
like, we
would.
have lots of kids come back and maybe you come on the panel, that panel is really important. I'm sure you love that, right? Where the parents talked and the kids talked.
And asking them questions. It was just like this podcast, and they were right there to answer the questions. It was really the whole way it's set up. Really, those 3 days, just those 3 days, taking those lessons and practicing them, it was just turned everything around for our whole family.
Thank you. No, I like I said, this for me being my life's work, I appreciate it because so much goes into the camps and we pour it all in and we want you guys to have these amazing experiences. So, but the key is not just going to camp, right? Like I'd say by far the majority feel like you, where I need to go, I need to learn, I need to implement. But there are these select individuals that think, you're going to kill my kid, right? She's going to come out completely verbal. She's going to do it all. And I got to call, I got to go take it. And every now and then you have a parent that doesn't go to parent education and we have to call them and go, nah, you got to be here. You can't not be here if you're coming to camp. And it happened at a recent camp where the parent wasn't there. No, it's not going to be that way. You've got to come and learn. So I appreciate so much that you took so much in and you're really amazing too, Jenny, because you have such a way of articulating it. I wish I could be taking more notes. Like,
Oh,
I mean, you
no,
really,
thank you for saying that. But I,
no,
I don't
really,
hear it, but thank you.
no, really, just even like that part about the way you were talking about, which you heard me when I said, you're not enabling, and like you said, you're supporting them, you're understanding them, you're respecting them. You're respecting where they're at. Enabling means you like push them aside and you do and talk and even non-verbally engage with them, like that SM triangle where the person asks a question and you answer. That's enabling because no matter where that child is, you can bring them in to the social communication no matter what stage they're at. So enable means you're disrespecting the bridge altogether, or you're pushing to speak, push to speak, push, and the child isn't there yet and they don't have the skills. So what you do is you create an anxiety and avoidance and it lowers their self-confidence and self-esteem. And you're spinning in it and spinning in it and you're frustrated and they're avoidant and woo, it's just like, that's crazy, right? That's what happened.